Hello, everybody. I know you're expecting to see Cat Hobson, but Cat Hobson is on vacation and asked me to sit in for you. Going to do my best, and I think I got us a really good guest too today. Um, I've managed to ghost with him probably for the last 7 or 8 years, and we've gone to Scotland. You know, we've been all over the place. We've been to many ghost hunting places in America, and I think Mikey's gone to Scotland with us twice. Um, so we got a lot to say. So if we ever get around to getting that boy up here, let's see what's going on. Hey, Mikey.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. Where are you at this point in time?
I am in Billings, Montana right now,
Nice.
growing out a beard because
I see that.
it's about to get really cold out here.
I kind of worry when friends of mine all of a sudden look totally different and they're hiding in Montana.
Yeah, yeah.
You got something you want to tell us, Mikey?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, let's find out. I want to know what got you into ghost hunting.
Well, really, I started in 2002. Um, my daughter had a near drowning, and I found her in the deep end of our swimming pool, and she was a lifeless. And so I started CPR, and we worked on her for nearly a half hour between the time I got her out of the pool and at the hospital when they got a pulse back. And we spent a month down the hill in the children's hospital. Hit or miss. We didn't know if she was going to make it or not, but she did. And we were there about a month or so and got her home. And right after we got home, her and I both were waking up in the middle of the night with night terrors. Just she would be screaming, I'd be screaming, like reliving the whole drowning and everything. And then I would have to run downstairs and get her every night. And finally, this went on for a few years. So, as a father, just in general, you want to know what's going on with your kid, and then after something like a near drowning, doing CPR on your own kid, it was terrible. So I asked her what's happening. One night I had her and she was shaking so bad, and she said, "Little man's trying to get me." And I said, "What what are you talking about, little man?" She's a toddler, and she just kept saying, "Little man, little man." And so I didn't know what to do. I felt like there's this imaginary thing she's seeing that's tormenting her. I don't know if it's trauma from the drowning. I don't know what's happening. And then at that time, who do I talk to? I work in the medical field. I can't go to the hospital and tell doctors that my kid's seeing ghosts. Like at that time, it was just I was kind of trapped in my own head. So fast forward to 2004, Ghost Hunters comes out in October. And my father passed away of a heart attack in September, a month before. So I was really a mess. I just was looking for answers. And then, that first episode of Ghost Hunters with Jason and the original Ghost Hunters crew was in a home with a woman who had a little girl that was seeing and hearing things. I thought, well, this is perfect. I'm going to watch this show and see what these guys are doing because I got to figure out what's happening with my own kid. And so that's what started my paranormal journey, really, like as far as investigating. I started buying everything that I saw them using on TV, and then I started watching everything I could see on paranormal, anything, Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures, anything that started popping up after that. I was just watching every show, seeing what equipment they were using, and I kind of became a tech nerd, trying to find my answers to my own thing. Hey girl, hey, Lori popped in. So that's what got me in initially. Here we are in 2026, my daughter just had her baby last month, her first baby. So she's doing fine. She's well. I have no reason to be, scared or worried anymore. But what I found with this paranormal family was it's like therapy for me, if I'm being honest. Back then, going through that, I never did seek help dealing with that professionally, but I found that I could tell these stories at events, and there were people there that could relate, and they didn't look at me like I was insane. And as a matter of fact, I met you that way, in Ellensworth. So, and even then, Rick, I mean, this was how many years later after the drowning, and I've been just kind of going around on my own, and there were things that happened there that I had never experienced and didn't understand. So I feel like I'm constantly learning, but getting away from everything, traveling to these locations, walking around these amazing historical places, is really this therapy for me. I've gotten to meet a lot of really neat people along the way. So that's why I keep doing it.
Well, just to clear something up for the people that are listening, tell them what your background is as far as medicine.
Yeah, so at the time when my daughter drowned, I was an EMT. I was driving an ambulance and working in the emergency room as a tech, and then I've since got my RN. So right now I'm a travel nurse. I work in the cardiac cath lab. So if you're having a heart attack, you come see us, or a plethora of different things. So you need a pacemaker, your poor vascular blood flow. I mean, we do a lot in that department. So I'm currently working in Billings as a travel nurse.
Have you ever sat and thought how lucky it was, or someone was watching out for you, that the girl that started to drown actually had a EMT guy for a father?
Honestly, Rick, there were so many crazy things that happened that day. I've never taken credit for that.
Tracy.
I won't. I'm sorry. Oh, hey, Tracy. Yeah. I've never taken credit for any of that, Rick, and I won't. It was a higher power that was there that day. And everybody's, got their beliefs and things. I had some crazy experiences that day that are just out of this world, literally. So I did what I have been trained to do. I provided oxygen. I did CPR on her, but there's no, I also see, I've seen kids with less time down that didn't make it. I've seen kids that never came off the ventilator. The parents had to make the decision because there's so many variables and so many different circumstances. I had survivor's guilt for a very long time, working in the medical field, having to hand a mother their child that didn't make it, versus me. I go home to my daughter who survived after almost 30 minutes of no pulse. So it was really, it's always been a miracle to me, Rick, and that's where I leave it. I will never take credit for my daughter being here today. I know that at some point I got my wits together and I did the things that I felt like I needed to do and that I've been trained to do. But she's here because of a higher power. She's a miracle. And I'll stick to that story till I'm in the ground.
Well, yeah, when you go on the ground, we're going to ghost hunt you. I just want you to know that.
I'll talk to you. Yeah,
better respond. How long have I known you? Like 8 years now?
Well, longer? We met in, was it 2018?
Yeah, that would be.
We're creeping on 10. Yeah.
Wow.
Creeping on 10 years. We met in Porterville, California at the Colonel Allensworth State Park with the Porterville Ghost Society, Kat and Shannon and the crew there. We're putting on an event, all good people. And you, Jamie, Min's house at the time. But her and I became friends on the Queen Mary. And then she introduced me to Kat and Shannon, who had brought you in for that event that weekend. And so it was just kind of all tied in together,
I actually stole Jamie's daughter to be my sidekick up there.
Yeah, poor Allie. She's been right since.
Yeah. I'll take the blame.
She's doing well too. She's got a beautiful little family, and I mean, everybody's growing up. We're getting old, buddy. I mean, when I say we, I mean you.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I am sort of on the elderly side.
You look good.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this, because we have gone to a lot of amazing places together. I mean, a lot. And a lot of times with the host of this show, Kat Hobson
Yeah.
and Lori Dorsey, we've got like a foursome that will go out. And I got to tell you, that's a pretty powerful foursome because we tend to get a lot of stuff while we're out. And some stuff you just can't understand. It's, oh, that looks better. Your light just came up a little bit and you look better on the screen now.
My light came up?
Yep, sure did.
Oh. Well, it wasn't me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Where would you most like to go?
Where would I most like to go? Wow. Wow. That's a tough one, Rick. I mean, there's a lot of places still here in the States that I haven't been, mostly back east. Trans-Allegheny is on the list. I finally made it to Waverly, which was my bucket list place, and I went 4 times when I was working my contract in Louisville, Kentucky. But I love going to Tombstone. Both times I went with you and had a great time there. Scotland never gets old, no matter what, where we go out there. But I wouldn't say that I've hit them all.
You'll never hit them all.
You'll never hit them all, right? But I think I'm going to work my way back east. I did do some research here in Montana. In Montana, everybody's got their haunted stuff. So last weekend I just got in the car and drove to Butte, Montana, the home of the Copper King Mansion. And I did that because I've stayed at the Copper Queen Hotel in Bisbee, Arizona with Kat and Shannon from Porterville Ghost Society. And that was after the first Tombstone event that that we went to there. Drove down to Bisbee, and I thought, well, I'm only a few hours away from the Copper King. I got to stay there. And I stayed in the mansion that William A. Clark had built. And so the history there alone, if you love history and cool little towns and things like that, it's insane. I got to spend the weekend with one of the owners are still there. Pat is 86 and he still climbs 3 stories up to his room. He'll run circles around you in that mansion. And he's an encyclopedia of information. He'll tell you anything about anything. We talked about that town and the Clarks and the family. And so just sitting there in that beautiful home that they've preserved all these years and learning the history about that town, I love that too. There's a few places around. Local Deer Lodge has some things that I might sneak into if I can. Old hospitals, old jails. But yeah. As far as where am I going to go next, hopefully back to Scotland.
You're always welcome.
Let's do it.
Let me ask you a question about, because you brought up Tombstone. If you tell us about what happened at the mortuary.
Yeah. Well, you and I, they paired you up with me, you poor thing, while we were there. And
I demanded you come with me, by the way, and Tracy Pina will justify that. So,
yes,
and she's on here. So
hey, Tracy. Yeah, they had a great setup there, and we got to host the Undertaker Coffee Shop, which used to be the morgue, really, right? And we had a very interesting experience with a young man, a very young, excited ghost hunter.
You're going to rip me out, aren't you?
Why don't you tell your version of how that went, and then I'll come in.
No, you go ahead. You can wrap me out.
No. So this young man, his parents brought him in, and he had his little Ghost Stop case with his gear. He had his little EVP watch on. He'd been watching Ghost Adventures and all the things and ghost hunters, and he was just really excited to be at a haunted location in Tombstone, Arizona, and his parents were so excited. And so we thought, well, one of the claims there at the Undertaker is of a little boy who was run over by the stagecoach or crushed by the coach, correct?
No, he got kicked in the head, actually, is what they told
Oh,
us.
kicked in the head and then ran over.
Yeah.
There's something with the stagecoach, yes, but he passed, and his spirit is said to be there playing around. And so we thought, what a great idea, maybe, with the parents there and everybody, to have this young man. We were all a big group of us, try to get an EVP or some type of reaction from the little boy spirit. So I said, why don't you start it off with ask a question and see if we can get any responses. So this nervous young man just starts talking away. And he's going on, and I'm a ghost hunter, and I'm here, and I like to do this and that, and he's just chatting away. And Rick, I look over, and Rick's looking down at him, watching this whole thing, thinking, now I know what you're thinking, Rick. We've got to get some questions out here that are going to give us responses, not like yes or no answers, like maybe a color or one or two words here. We can't have an entire conversation and then try to get a response back. Like in your ghost hunting brilliant mind, you're trying to get back on track while this 10-year-old boy is just going on and on. So finally Rick goes, hey, just tapping and says, listen, we gotta ask little questions. We can't be having these conversations. And he just quieted up. He stopped talking. And so you explained to him what we needed to do to move forward, and gave him some coaching there. And we tried again, but later I said, man, I hope this goes well, because I feel like you just bitch slapped a 10-year-old on this ghost hunt. And when he's trying to do an EVP session, this poor little dude. But long story short, we had a really cool interaction, and I'll let you talk about that, and then tell you can share with everybody what happened at the end of the event.
Yeah. Well, what happened is, I think I asked, might have been you that asked, the little boy who got killed was named Danny. And I asked the boy that was there, his name was Lincoln. And I said, Lincoln, why don't you ask if there's any kids here that can play with you? Right? And the thing came back and said, yes. And I said, ask him what his name is. And he says, Danny. And you and I both went, yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for. So they had a little, go to back and forth a little bit, not overly enough, but enough for him to say his name was Danny and a couple other things. But after they left, because they were circling, we were two of the celebrity guests, and they would bring in another group after about 45 minutes to an hour. Another group would come in, and when they came in, the first question I asked, I said, hey Danny, do you remember the little kid you were talking to? Do you remember his name? And he goes, Lincoln. You can't come up with Lincoln by accident.
No,
so
that was a separate
really
group. Matter of fact, you were telling the group that had come in what had happened with Danny.
Yeah.
And then asked if you remember the little boy, and said Lincoln, and everybody in the second group was like, what?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But the nicest thing, here's I'll read what it says here from Tracy. And his parents came to the city's booth the next day and told myself and the social media guy that you two were the most wonderful ghost hunters ever. They were the most grateful parents.
Wow.
That is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
If you ask me now, Rick, why am I ghost hunting still? I would say at this point, it's for those comments right there, those moments right there, because we've got enough experience under our belt that when there are people coming into this like me, who didn't know it was happening, 24 years ago, you and I can kind of team up and help people understand that whatever their experiences are their experiences. They're not necessarily crazy. It's just, there are things that happen that aren't explained. And and we can have moments like this where, you know, the parents brought their child to Tombstone, Arizona, to give him a ghost hunting experience, and it went exactly as they had hoped, and so we were able to be a part of that. So that's, yeah,
That is pretty cool. There was another young girl there, Tracy Pinow's daughter, and her name really is Sky King, just like the old TV show. Of course, you guys probably aren't old enough to remember it, but I am. But she was like the size of a coffee cup. She was a little tiny girl and real shy. And Tracy said to me, she goes, you know, can you guys talk to her and stuff? She's real shy. She's really in her shell and stuff. And by the end of she hung out with us, and by the time the thing was over, she was like jumping off the thing, hitting you with elbows.
Oh yeah.
She really came up, but I promised Tracy I would keep an eye on her. And we were out. It was really dark, and we were at the Tombstone, the Boot Hill. And I'm looking around. There's all these small bushes around, right? And Sky was standing there. And I turned around and looked, and she was completely gone. And all I see is open up. And I said, holy crap, where'd she go? And she stands up. She was squatted down like a bush, popped up, and she was laughing.
Got him. Sky said that I ordered pizza. Yes. Okay. I'll pay up. Uh-huh. Do you want me to DoorDash you, or what are we doing? You're going to wait? Do I have to come to Arizona and take you out for pizza?
No,
Is that the deal?
she's got to get it in person.
Get it in person? Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I'll come back to Arizona.
Well, I'll tell you something that was so funny. We were upstairs in one of the places, one of the saloons, and Sky was sitting next to me. Tracy was on the other side. You were up there. We were all up on this table, and everybody started to sing. And I think Tracy was filming it. I'm not sure, but I started singing, and I looked over on the tape when they showed it back, and you see Sky sitting next to me. She looks up at me and she goes,
You got the voice of an angel, Rick. You got the voice of an angel.
Oh, boy. That was really fun. I'm going to go down there again. And I love Tombstone.
Yeah.
But we're getting ready to go back. Well, you had gone with me to the American Horror Story House.
Yes, the murder house.
Yeah, recently. Yes. And they were filming a live event, and they asked us to come down because it was actually kind of like almost a movie. And there were these two girls dressed up like the ones from The Shining.
Yeah.
And then there was us, and there was a bunch of other people all in makeup and stuff. And we were downstairs in the basement. We were just ghost hunting because we were down in the basement with nothing to do. And we started getting hits all over the K2 meter. The REM pod was going off. You know, we were getting a lot of stuff. And then they came down and said, okay, you guys can go home. I was like, what did we do wrong? We're right where you put us. And he said, no. He says the link went down and we can't get it back.
Yeah.
So, but now on February 19th, I'm getting to go back with Kane Hodder. And we are going to ghost hunt the place.
Wow. Hollywood Ghost Hunters reunited. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
It should be fun.
Yes.
Except for the Kane part.
Well, it's kind of good that we went and got a little run of the place before we, you know, I mean, we kind of got it mapped out, and you and your K2 back at it again. We didn't have a lot of time to go through the entire property, but the time we did spend downstairs setting up equipment, we sure did have REM and K2 and millimeter hits. It was kind of like one of those things where we had the equipment in the perimeter and it just started going off because I had set the millimeter in the back portion of the basement, if you recall, and then we had REM pods kind of spread out, and your K2 started going off and the REM started going off, and then
I get nervous when my K2 doesn't go off.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. When I was in Scotland, and I think it was at Bannockburn, or it might have been at Castle Menzies. I don't care if they say Mengus or not. It's Z-I-E-S, and that's Z's, right? But we were there, and we were downstairs, and like in the foyer, and mine's going crazy. And the two girls standing there both have them, and they're not going off. They're right next to me, and they're not going off. And I mean, you had the same thing happen when yours didn't go off when we were in Airth Castle.
Yeah, it wasn't even a K2. I had a Mel meter out.
Yeah.
And so we were just setting equipment up, changing batteries and testing stuff, and your K2 started going off. So I thought, let me see if I can get a number hit on this and see if it's just, whatever's going on in the room. And I turned my Mel on and literally set it right down next to you, and I had zeros, 0.0 on the Mel, nothing. And your K2 is lighting up in your hand. And so I just, and like you said, it happens down at Manic Barn or Menzies, Mangus, wherever else. I mean, this is just a Rick thing. Like, it happens so much. Like you said, I expect it.
I get it. Well, here's what happened there. That was so cool. The two girls had their K2s, and I was like, I've never tried this, but let's try this. I said, put your K2 underneath mine, and you put your K2 underneath hers. So we had like 3 of them, and they weren't touching. They were like, a little bit apart. And then I started saying, okay, mine has gone up to 5 lights all the time. Let's get all 3 of them to do that. Right. And 15 seconds later, boom, all 3 of them were going. And the people there were just going, how did you do that? And I went, I didn't. They did. I just asked. Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. But
single access K2 meters get a bad rap a lot of the time. But I'm telling you, I had a bunch of those, early on, because that's what everybody was using. You remember back in the day where you push to the on button and you have to put a quarter or a nickel or something in there to keep it on, because before they even had the click-ons. Most of you young kids don't know what I'm talking about, but I went to Calico Ghost Town. I was inside the Maggie Mine, and you get down so far and it forks off. And then you go to the left and you exit, and you can go to the right, and it kind of dead ends and you come back. But right there at the Y, one of my investigators in the group, she noticed her K2 was lit up. And we all had those single access K2s like the one you have. And so we kind of go over there to see what's going on, and then another one goes off, and another one goes off. There's about 4 of us standing there, and they're all pegged right at the Y there in the Maggie Mine. And we sat there and watched it, and then they all went out. All went down to quiet, dead. And we stood there for, we timed it. It was just about 60 seconds. And it started again. One lit up, 5 lights, and another one, 5 lights, and it lit up for a bit and then died down, and then it did it again. So it was like a pattern. You could almost time it. And so I don't know. I have the old school single access K2s along with the modern, triple access tri-field meters, those things too. I like to have them to compare, and I also like to have one in my pocket in case something happens with the orders, and so you always have one in your hand.
Well, I got to tell you something strange. When I was in Scotland with Scottish Paranormal, which I'm a member of, we went to this one place that was a swimming pool and a gym, and everybody went off, and I was going around the rest of the place by myself to see what I could get, and I wasn't getting anything, right? And finally, I decided to catch up with the other guys. When I got down, Ryan was doing a session, and it was a small weight room, with like the old Nautilus machines and Universal machines and stuff. And everybody was sitting on the ground. And I'm standing in the door trying to stay out of the way. And I put my K2 in my back pocket. And I'm standing there, and I feel it go yank, like someone tried to pull it out of my back pocket. I turn around, there's nobody there. Right? And I'm like, wow. So I shoved it back down. And hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
A little bit, maybe a minute after that, I could feel like a tug, like it was trying to yank it out of my pocket again. And I turned around, and right then, Lee Dunn, who's very good medium, world-class medium, he came in, and he's standing next to me, and he goes, "Oh, something just grabbed my ass." I said, "Welcome to the club. You got me twice." And I looked at him. I said, I got a feeling it's a kid because he keeps going, low, right? Instead of poking you in the ear or something like that, he kept grabbing and stuff. And Lee goes, "It's a kid." I said, "Yeah, that was something." But yeah, this one's trying to steal my K2. There's gonna be some fisticuffs involved in that. No,
Yeah,
nobody touches my K2.
your K2's got to go in some type of paranormal hall of fame. I swear,
Well,
like it's just.
I think you were there when we were doing the LAPD museum, and I came down and there's this table that's probably 12 feet down in the conference room.
Yep.
Remember that thing? And
Oh,
when
yeah.
I came down, there was two K2s on the thing, and I set mine down, and they were about 3.5, 4 feet apart, each one. The distance between each one. And Melissa says, "Yes," she says, "I just talked to somebody. I think his name was Arthur. And I think he might have been there." And I said, "I don't think it's Arthur." And I said, "I've got a pal down here." And I said, "It was probably Walter, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Walter, are you here?" And all three of them lit up at the same time. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
I was there for that, and I remember Melissa was picking up on something at the same time too. Which Melissa St. Hilaire. Yeah.
Also, a good psychic medium.
Yes. Back just real quick to kind of go back to Tombstone for a second. Speaking of child things, like you felt like it was a kid pulling trying to pull your K2 out. Everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people in the paranormal have had cold spot experiences, and I have ish along with the way. 20 something years of doing this, I always bust out equipment, and I really just kind of discount it to where I'm at location wise, broken windows, whatever. When we were in Tombstone with Lincoln, after that little EVP session had happened, I don't know if you remember or if you had moved on, but I had set up your favorite paranormal equipment, the cat balls in the corner. And I know. But it started going off. The cat balls started going off. One of them did. I had like three out, and one of them was going off. It's like, oh, okay. Like, Danny, are you still here? You want to, play with the balls, whatever, the cat balls. And I was trying to get my camera. I was doing something with my camera. I was sitting there playing with my camera because I was going to record this cat ball thing happening. And coming up on my right side, I felt as if someone was walked into the space, standing there, ice cold, like a child height, like a little person walked up to me. I could feel it. I could feel density. I could feel cold. I had never in my paranormal career experienced that kind of a cold, temperature change where it was dense, like something was there. And I mean, even now, goosebumps talking about it. I was almost frozen, no pun intended, sitting there and trying to get my camera to go on. I had given one of the guests my thermal camera to go walk around with, and I was kicking myself because this would be the perfect time to have that. But the child spirits, that in Tombstone at the Undertaker Coffee, I had a crazy. We had a collection of experiences there, I would say. But as far as your K2 goes, I think I was part of probably the greatest encounter you've ever had. I would venture to say one of the greatest encounters you've ever had in your entire paranormal career with your K2. And I got to witness it in Balgony Castle.
Hey, Carl, can you put up the picture of Balgony Castle for us? Yeah, Balgony Castle is my absolute favorite place there, and I became really good friends with the laird. And it's in Scotland they call him laird, in Ireland they call him lord. I guess it's because the Scottish people can't say lord. But yeah, we had a freaky thing happen. I mean, absolutely freaky. That's Rosslyn Chapel.
Rosslyn. Yeah.
which we have ghost hunted all around there many times. Oh, I got to tell a quick story. Can you go back to the picture where we're walking? It's about 3 pictures back. Right there. I don't mean to interrupt you, Mikey, but this is important. It's one of the scariest things that ever happened to me. I came out of this. If you can see, there's nothing where you can hide. There's the hedges on both sides, and that walks right into the city, right? You can see everything. There's nobody hiding or anything like that. And I was walking out, and there were 2 older ladies. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe there's ladies that are older than me. But anyway, I went walking by. I said, hello, ladies. And I got up just about 10 feet past where those people are. And I heard right in front of me, it went, "Rawr!" And I mean, I froze. I thought it was like a lion or some damn thing. It was the scariest thing I ever heard. And I froze because I thought it was an animal, a guard dog or something. I'm just standing there. And I'm looking all around. I don't see anything. So I scoot over because if you can see the guy down all the way down there going by the hedge, that's a parking lot behind it. So I ran down there and looked on both sides. There's nobody around. And I come walking back, and the 2 ladies walked up to me and they said, we heard it too. Right. Well, I was staying at this lady's house, and it was about 7 or 8 miles away. She went to visit her mom, and I was lucky enough to get a place to stay. And I'm walking through the forest and everything else, and about 7 or 8 miles. And I'm kind of shaken up by that, because anybody that really ghost hunts a lot knows what those real demonic sounds sound like, and that's what it sounded like. Yeah. So I got down to where I'm about a block away where I'm supposed to go, and I'm standing there waiting for the light to change, and I'm still kind of shook up. I'm not sure what to do. And I just looked up and I just said, I think I could use a little help with this. And I looked down and thinking, I think you've seen this picture before, Mikey. I should have sent it up. But I looked down, and there was a picture of my shadow with a big cross in front of it. Yeah. And I mean, it was awesome. But yeah, it's amazing some of the stuff that happens when you're not even, investigating. It just pops up for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that picture. You have shown me that picture before, and that's another crazy Scotland story.
Yeah, that was really something. But yeah, there's so many things that I think of back to. Why don't you tell them what happened at Balgony that you said was so? Well, that is my buddy, the Laird.
Yeah.
And that is his dog, Alfie, and unfortunately, they're both gone now.
Yeah, they're together now again.
And what was so cool about Alfie? I'm allergic to dogs, most of them. And I mean, he's an Irish wolfhound. He's got enough hair to start a rock band, right? And he'd always come over and he'd jump on me, and I wasn't allergic to him. I'd wrestle with him, and it was really cool. Yeah. And for some reason, the Laird really took a liking to me. I mean, as soon as I met him, it was like we were the best of friends. And finally, when I went back, he passed away. Yeah. And why don't you tell him what happened? Because I don't want it to come from my perspective. When we got into the museum at Balgony.
Yeah. Well, the first time we went to Scotland, we were very fortunate I was very fortunate to get to meet him. And so he shared stories with the Balgony. He did all of the woodwork, a lot of the woodwork in there, most of the woodwork in his own shop.
Hang on a second, Mikey. Hey, Carl, can you put up the picture of the woodwork door? So go ahead.
Yeah. So but to hear the stories from him and the passion that he had for this castle, and even the story of how they came across it and how they, ended up with it, like everything was just, it felt like it was meant to be his. And he lived there and loved it. He just loved that place. And he did a lot of the woodwork there, intricate carvings, in his own workshop right there at the castle. And so we got to meet him and spend some time with him. And shortly after we got back home from that trip, he passed away. And so, but he was 92 when we met him.
He was up there. I'm not exactly sure how old he was.
Yeah, he was in his 90s then. But
you couldn't tell though. He was
No.
as sharp as a tack.
Oh yeah, yeah. He knew everything about. I mean, yeah, exactly. Sharp as a tack. It was just an honor to meet him. And so coming back to Balgoni, Scottish Paranormal, Gregor and Ryan and the crew, um, hosting events there, had there was a door.
That is the Laird's his own private residence, and that's up on the third floor. And all of those pictures up above are the former Lairds of the castle, and he painted all of them and put them into the ceiling.
Yeah, there's you and him and Alfie.
Yeah, there's the thing. But there's 42 doors inside there, and it he hand carved both sides of all of them. Like if you look up there and you see all the woodwork around there, he made all of the woodwork.
Yeah. Well, there it is. There's one of the doors. Yeah.
Doors. And he did 42 doors, both sides.
Yeah. So when we went back for the second time,
thank you, Carl.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Carl. Scottish Paranormal was hosting an event there, public event, where we got to take groups through different parts of the castle to investigate. You and I and Kat and Lori, we all got assigned the museum. They have a little museum there that's attached that has actual relics and things that they found on the property when they were doing renovations and things, like broken wine bottles and like all this different stuff. And Stuart had made this what do they call those? I just had a brain fart. The dioramas or whatever they're called. Yeah, of the castle and the grounds, and he made this with his own hands. He's very talented, like his father. And so there's display cases full of things that was found on site, things like that. But behind that little museum, there's a door that exits the little museum in the back and goes into the Laird shop, where he spent a lot of his time at Balgoni working on those doors and everything else that he was doing there. Blood, sweat, and tears. So we got to set up there in the museum, and I had a case or two of equipment maybe with me. So you had given me permission to go ahead and set up equipment, which I did. I set up equipment around that museum, like how we had done the first time we were there up in the Laird's Hall. Do you remember that? Where we kind of had a perimeter of, we had tri-field meter, REM pod behind us, Mel meter over here. We had equipment all around. And at one point we had equipment going off in a circle up there in the Laird's chamber. And so I thought, why not do it again? That worked before. And so I had a REM pod behind you, a Mel meter behind me. Everybody had their K2s. Kat had her cameras. Like we had equipment everywhere, tri-field meters, everything set up. And the first group comes in, and we start, telling everybody, introducing, getting a little history. What brought you into the paranormal? How long, are you a seasoned ghost hunter or a beginner? The things that we do. And your K2 starts going off, as it does. And then I would just release it to you. Take it from there. Share your experience with everybody. Like, what do you feel? What happened? What do you feel?
Well, what was so strange is my K2 went all 5 lights and froze. And I looked over, and Lori had a K2 meter, and hers was stuck on 5. And somebody else had one too, and all of them were at 5. I mean, the level of energy in that room was colossal. And I kept asking, let it go down so we can ask questions. And I turned it off, turned it back on, and it went boom, right to 5 again. And I turned around and looked, and right behind Kat, the REM pod was going off, like all the lights were going off at the same time. And to my eye, it looked like the electricity was going up the outside of the antenna. And that's the same thing that Kat said. But every piece of equipment went off. Kat had her camera, and she had just charged up all her batteries, and Mikey had extra batteries, and 3 batteries that she put in, all of them went. So I mean, it was amazing how much activity was going there, and shows you what a genius I am. I'm sitting there and I'm saying, boy, this has got to be somebody that knows, the equipment and everything else. And everybody's looking at me like, right? And then I went, holy cow, it's the Laird. Right? And they're looking at me like, it's about time. But that was amazing. I've never seen a reaction like that.
No, and I remember afterwards you saying, I think I'm done. Do you remember telling me that?
Yeah, but that was, what? It got more of it the next night.
Yeah.
When we went, and I sat on the tombstone because I couldn't walk any farther.
Right.
And the K2 just went absolutely apeshit crazy. I have to tell the story because it's so cool. I was with a girl from Highland Paranormal. She was a newbie. And we're walking along, and I have really bad knees. Matter of fact, I've got surgery coming up here on one of them. And we've been walking about 8-9 miles that day, and my knee was just saying, sit down, stupid. And I'm looking all around. There's no place to sit. And I can't sit on the ground because then I can't get up, right? So I'm looking around, and I see something that looks like a coffee table. So I just said, look, I mean you no disrespect, but if I don't sit down, I'm going to fall on you, right? Yeah. So, and I'd walked around this entire cemetery and didn't have a blip one time the whole time we were there. I sit down, it goes off 5 lights, right? The girl kind of goes, whoa. And I said, are you mad at me because I sat down on you? Bam, 5 lights again. I mean, these were instant answers, not like, okay, wait 20 seconds and something blinks. And I said, look, I'm really sorry. My knees are killing me. I have to sit down. Can I sit here for 30 seconds and then I'll get up? And it flickered between 2 and 3 like he was going, all right. And then about 30 seconds later, it goes all 5 lights. I said, are you telling me to get up? And it goes 5 lights again. And the girl's just she's astounded. And I said, I'll tell you what, do it again right now, all 5 lights, I'll get up. Bam, instantly. The girl goes, what are we doing? I said, I'm getting up.
Yeah.
But that was the night that I told you guys, I said, after yesterday with the Laird and then this, I think I'm done. Everybody says, why would you be done? I said, when am I ever going to be able to get something better than these two? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question now. Seeing as you're one of the most wanted people in Scotland after droning everybody's. You are lucky I have friends. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. What happened?
I won't bring his name up, but you are really lucky. I got to tell you what happened, though. We were having dinner, and I had one of my friends was with me, and Mikey's talking about how he snuck up on different buildings with his drone and stuff. And I'm like, Mikey? Mikey. My friend just sitting there, and I said, Mikey, he's the one that's in charge of all those places. Mikey's like, he goes, I don't care.
No, there was certain things that we talked about after the fact, and there's definitely regulations everywhere. So I followed them to the letter mostly. I had a couple little hiccups there, but it's okay. It worked out. Nobody was harmed in the flying of the drone.
Nobody went to Slammer.
Just disclaimer: make sure when you're traveling and going places that you know all of the rules and regs, so you don't lose your stuff. It's an expensive hobby. It sucks to have to leave your drone in another country.
But what are the chances of the guy that's watches out for all that stuff is sitting next to me and next to you, and you're ratting yourself out, and I'm going, Mikey, Mikey, hey, Mikey, yo.
Yeah, hey, Ixnay on the Ondre. Oh, Sky's here. Hi, Sky.
How do we know it's you? You might be pretending to be a bush again.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I wish there was one thing that was very, very funny. Tracy had told me that Sky was a little, withdrawn, and she didn't take to a lot of people. And by the time we were done, she's like jumping off the top rope at us. she, she was she was all there. I swear that was an accident.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Yeah, Sky's like 3 feet tall. It's a little tiny thing.
My
But,
legs were tired, she said. Sky's funny.
She
Sky's
is funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah. When she gets going, she cracks me up.
Well, when you're with her and Tracy, I mean, you're like, you know what? It's like being with us, the female
Yeah.
version.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things, we were coming out of Shefflin Hall, and I was pulling into Shefflin Hall, and I look and I see Sky walking across the street, right? And I'm, about a quarter of a block away, and I yell, "Run, Sky!" Right? And she jumps in the air and she sticks her fist out straight like
like Super Sky.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part, going back to the restaurant when you were singing or whatever noise you were making, I think my favorite part was watching Sky watch you.
Yeah, once you put her hand over.
She was just like, Mom, did you really stick me with these two? Like,
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
Can I only pick one?
But you had fun though, right? Come on.
Sky, did you have fun with us?
We had a good time. It was a great weekend.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to get back there because I have 1 day of free lodging.
Okay.
After I started yelling at them about the conditions I had, which you saw.
Oh yeah. Oh, there she is. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
A little reunion at some point.
But you got to quit picking on little Ricky.
You'll have new knee. You'll have a new knee.
Yeah, I'll be able to run away.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm getting my knee fixed. I'm getting a knee replacement. And I asked my doctor, he's sitting there and he says, and this will make you heal better. I paid $4,000 for a special implant he's going to use. And he said, it'll help you heal faster. It'll be stronger and everything else. I said, will I be able to run fast? And he looks at me and he goes, could you ever run fast? And I said, yeah, I could. But it was about 40 years ago.
He's like, define fast.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Yeah. No, I mean, you might be able to tackle those stairs in Scotland a little better.
Well, that is absolutely my plan. And I have wanted to do the West Highland Way for years.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to do it. If my knee gets to where it's functional.
Yeah.
And I actually went out and bought a stair stepper machine, a $100 one. And that thing is so good. I mean, I can feel my legs, getting a great workout and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to climbing some hills.
You should try it backwards.
I thought about that, but it's not that kind. It's, there's nothing to hold on to.
Oh, I don't think it would work. It'd just be funny.
Yeah, you'd hear a big thump and I'd be laying there like a piece of salami. Why do I like you? I don't know. I'm trying to I must have done something awful to you and I don't remember it. Let's switch up here and talk about the LAPD museum.
Okay, yeah.
Mikey, by the way, has a lot of really good ideas. And usually I'll say, it's not a bad idea, but let's go a step farther. And he came to us. LAPD has got all the big evidence from all the Manson family, the North Hollywood shootout, the stuff that happened up to Sharon Tate and all that from the Mansons. All that evidence is in this building. And it is very haunted, that place. There's no doubt about it. And Mikey calls me up one day. There's a exhibit from the two guys that robbed the North Hollywood Bank, and both of them ended up getting killed. But they fired between 12 and 1,700 bullets across the street at all the people. And I remember we were doing another thing, and nobody wanted to go in there. They were kind of scared. And I said, I'll do it. And I walked in. I said, why is anybody scared of you? You're the most incompetent robbers I've ever seen. You fired, 1,200 bullets. You didn't hit anybody. I said, you both got your asses killed. I said, why is anybody afraid of you? Right. So then everybody goes, oh, all right. If he bitch slapped them, we'll go away. Right. But
You cleared the room.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Mikey comes to me and he calls me up because we were doing it like once every 6 weeks. And he says, I got an idea. Let's bring the SLS camera, the one that makes like the skeleton figures and things like that. He says, I'll use that. And let's put something that will trigger them to activate. And he says, why don't we put the news on? And I said, I got a better idea. And he goes, what's that? I said, why don't we put the sound of machine guns on, like it's a battle? So we're up there and everybody's standing inside there. Mikey's got the SLS camera, and he reaches over and he hits the sound. And as soon as that went off, two figures right over the dummies popped. And then it looked like they started fighting because one looked like he fell out on the ground and the other guy was kicking him, right?
Yeah.
And never saw anything like that in my life, but that was really something.
Yeah, I remember that. We'd been there one time before, and we're on our way back, and I had new equipment coming in the mail, and
What a surprise that is.
I know. I was working on this motion sensor that triggered an audible response. So I bought one that you could record something to, and the thought was we'll just set it out there in that room, and if there's something moving around in there, it kicks that motion sensor off, then we'll hear. That's kind of what started the whole thing, and then I said, well, I wonder what if we charge the room up with like I said, if I could find an article or a video of the actual footage and replay it. And we started, brainstorming, and you said, that's a good idea, but what about just some straight up machine gun fire? Like just fill that room up with machine gun fire. So I found some stuff online and we played with some different sounds. And I mean, you make it sound like it was super, like, we did a lot of playing around with this before we settled on a final product. And like you said, sure enough, connected my speaker up and hit play on that thing and let it run. Now, remember when we got there too, Misha had been playing the clips, the news clips to, so in the lobby, I believe there was a little video going about the shooting. So,
well, one night we did watch Ghost Adventures we sat there and watched it. It was about the North Hollywood shootout.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that? They had asked, they had found a newspaper article about a girl that had killed herself at the place in the gunnery range, in the gun range.
Yes.
And I sat down and they showed the thing and her name was Margaret.
Yeah.
Remember that? And I asked her, I said, is there any women here that passed away in this building? And it said, yes. And I said, what's your name? And it goes, Margaret.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
what trip was it that you did that though? Because I remember the first time I went, the first time you invited me down there, you said, come on down to the LAPD museum. I was blown away by everything.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end.
Beginning of the end. But I remember going down to that basement and walking down through that shooting range area, and they still have evidence. This place still holds evidence from unsolved crimes. And so, but I got out of there. Do you remember me? I was standing there talking to Misha, and the light went out above us.
I wasn't there when that happened.
Okay, so we're down there talking, and it felt heavy in there, thick. And I usually get like a little weird feeling right in my solar plexus. And I'm not psychic or anything like that, but I just didn't feel good. And so I got out of there. And it's kind of a tight space. Maybe I was a little claustrophobic. I don't know. But I got back to where you would leave to to go back into the conference room where that big table was you were talking about. Misha was standing there, and I was saying, yeah, I just don't feel good. We were talking, and then boom, the light went out above us. And so I sat down in that chair at the conference table, and everybody else kind of went in. And I remember Melissa St. Hilaire asking me if I was okay, and I said, I don't feel good. She goes, she got me some water. She went and got me some water, and she said, you look a little pale. I said, yeah, I just don't feel good. She goes, well, what do you feel? I said, it just felt heavy in there to me. And I said, I'm going to ask you, because you're you're a medium. I said, I kind of feel like almost like a motherly presence, like a female, like around. I said, and I'm not psychic or a medium, but I don't know. And there was remember that picture of the woman down there in the conference room, the first female officer? What was her name?
I don't remember seeing that. I remember seeing the picture of Walter in the motorcycle.
There's Walter in the motorcycle, but there was a picture of a woman. I said, do you think it could have been her? And Melissa said, no. She said, I know that I know what you're saying, but it's not her. And then what was it? Four trips later, after the Ghost Adventures thing, when Zach and them did the research and found that woman had shot herself down there in that shooting range, and went upstairs and took one of the guns out of the holster, out of the cop's holster, and went down there and shot herself. And then you got the name, and we were all like, "Oh my gosh!"
So you think it was that woman that came?
I don't know if it was her, but I feel like it was her. Like,
well,
I wanted to believe it was her.
How many other women spirits you think are walking through there?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them a story. I'll be right back.
All right. It's top of the hour, Carl. The museum, we never had an investigation there where we didn't have some type of experience. And I don't know that I've ever been in a building that has had that much actual evidence or actual articles from tragedies. Like Rick said, well, even and those of you that watch that Ghost Adventures episode, that crew, Zach and the guys, got to see a little bit of the stuff that's locked away still. But we're talking evidence from the Sharon Tate murders, evidence from the Marilyn Monroe investigation, the onion fields, et cetera, et cetera. It's still there. And so to be like, it's kind of the North Hollywood shooting. I mean, everything from that day is there in that museum. So it's one thing to be like, oh, I still have, grandma's favorite doll from when she was a little girl. There might be something attached to it, or maybe grandma's still around because she loved this doll. And then to be in a building full of things, like I was just explaining about the types of things that are still in the LAPD museum, or were at the time.
I could hear you when you were talking.
Yeah. So, and people have asked me that. This is a fun little side note. People have asked me, do you think that things can really attach to things? Like physical objects, can they have attachments? And I thought about that. And let me ask you, Rick, and everybody out there who's watching, the way I explained it was, have you ever been to a museum, like an art museum, and seen a painting that kind of made you emotional? Like you're looking at this painting and you just kind of feel like, wow, I really see what's happening in this picture, and it really kind of hits me in the chest. Or listen to a song that made you cry, or it made you feel good. Like, to me, that's art. That's someone created that. It's no different than a carpenter putting his talent and skill and love and passion into a chair that he makes by hand. Or an artist when she paints her feelings and emotions onto this canvas. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you literally be putting a little piece of yourself into that for the rest of the world to feel long after you're gone, like your legacy, it kind of does make sense to me that when people are so into their art, their music, their art, their furniture, whatever it is, that sure, you could have some kind of residual or something, right? I mean, perhaps, or did I
Everything,
lose you?
perhaps.
Come back to me, Rick.
Yeah, no, everything's a perhaps. I mean, it's a possibility. I can see
Yeah.
where the one thing that might really be something is a child who passed away and had a teddy bear.
Yes.
That would be something that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I got to tell a story about the LAPD museum. You were there. We were walking around, and there was a man with his daughter, and I would say the girl was 14. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. I remember.
And they weren't interacting much, and I was watching them. And finally, we started doing the Estes method, and it was like a little alcove, and you walked up 5 or 6 stairs, and there was a few of us in the alcove. Everybody else was down on the floor watching. And I went over and I asked her, I said, "Do you want to try this?" And she goes, "Yeah, but would you make sure my dad watches?" I said, "Sure." So he was investigating in the other room, and I brought him back, and he was standing there watching. And she had one of the most intense, uh, sessions I've ever seen. And she started talking about there's two men going in, and there's a blonde lady, and she's dead on the bed, and people are going, "Oh, that's Sharon Tate," and I'm going, "No, it's not." Right? I said, "That's Marilyn."
Yeah.
Sharon Tate was hung up and disemboweled pretty much. But
Yeah.
I mean, and then she started getting. I think you might have been up at the top. She started getting real deep, and I noticed her start to spasm. So I pulled her out of it right away, and I took her downstairs to her father. And her father grabbed her and he goes, "Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you." And they were hugging each other, and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. It was another one of those moments. Yeah. Where, yeah, you wonder why. Well, it makes me wonder why someone so young is at one of these events, and
Well,
maybe,
well, look at Lincoln. He was 4.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it happened at Old Paulding too. Um, Remember when we were there and there was that group of young kids that
Yeah,
came.
but they were
Um,
college kids.
well, excuse me, the youngest was 17,
I
and I
was in
think the
college when
oldest,
I was 17.
right, and the oldest was maybe early 20s. So there was that range there, but they had met um, at another event, and then and and heard about this the event that you were hosting there, and they drove like 3 miles to come to that night, or 3 hours. Sorry, they drove 3 hours to come there that night. Remember,
Yeah, I
we
got
were down in
told
the
once it
basement.
wasn't all that impressive when they were driving 3 miles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back it up, back it up. But we were downstairs in the basement, and we started getting responses with the EVPs. Remember, and then all of a sudden, one of the girls in the group started asking questions, and then they kind of we got them into it. But and then throughout the night, they kind of followed us around. We went upstairs to where the sheriff's quarters were, where he lived with his family, and we handcuffed one of the kids, uh, and then went down to the cells, and they were getting hits in one of the cells with the REM and the millimeter, and they said it seems to go off when you get up and because I had stepped out to get some equipment, came back, and they said it seems to go off when you're moving, like it doesn't, like it's uncomfortable with you. And I said, well, maybe I remind them of a big guard. And so I started clanking my flashlight on the bars. I was like, all right, lights out, everybody out. And then the equipment would go off. And so the kids had a great experience. And at the end of it, when everybody was saying their goodbyes and going home, they shared their story with us. And the one girl, the oldest, her and her best friend had an experience at the house with a woman in white. And the best friend had had a terrifying experience with her, almost like sleep paralysis kind of a thing. And they were doing the same thing, looking for answers. Is this stuff real? What's going on? So but initially when they first got there, they were kind of quiet and reserved and just feeling it out. And by the end of the night, opened up, like the young girl with her father at the LAPD museum, or Lincoln. Like, it's just another one of those stories that where you feel like you got to help somebody, you know?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that are they're life shaking, let's say, and life shaping as well. I mean, when you put somebody on the right path and they start getting answers, then that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Because why else are we doing this? Usually it's some type of personal experience, and we don't know what happened. Um, and we're trying to find like-minded people that feel like maybe they've answered that question. So
Well, they're out there. There's no doubt about that.
yeah, I found some of the greatest, the most interesting things that have happened were at private residences, where people, asked to come and do an investigation because of something that happened. And I've seen some very interesting things at private residences.
Oh, I got to tell you something about a private residence. This really nice lady who lived in Malibu called me up and said, "Look, I saw you on the internet, and I have a really nasty ghost. Do you think you can help me get rid of him?" And I said, "I'll try." Right? I said, "Where are you at?" She goes, "I live right on the pier, right in Malibu." I said, "Wow, that's really hard to park down there." She goes, "Just park behind the Range Rover." And I said, "Every car down there is a Range Rover."
Yeah.
She goes, "I'll come out and get you." Right? So I'm standing there. This really pretty woman comes out. She goes, "Are you Rick?" And I said, "I'd lie and say yes, even if I wasn't." So we go in, and she did have a spirit in there. And fortunately, we managed to run it off, right? But she was so sweet. She had bought $400 worth of equipment, to be
Oh,
able to ghost hunt and everything else. And at the end,
yeah.
she goes, "Well, I want you to have this as a present." I said, "No." And she goes, "Why not?" I said, "Suppose it comes back. You need some equipment." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, she real sweet. We're real good friends now. But anyway, she walks out, and the next day she calls me up. She goes, "Thank you so much for helping me. Nothing happened last night." She goes, "Except for I was looking on the Ring doorbell." She says, "And I saw when I went out to get you, and I saw myself come back, and then I saw myself walk you out to the car, and you're not neither one of them."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like when Lori couldn't map me with the SLS camera.
Yeah.
Started
And
wondering
Lori
from
can map anything with the
oh,
SLS
Lori,
camera.
Lori's a pro with that thing. She kept getting frustrated. It's not mapping you. So I'm
Yeah.
just sitting there. And then she always
Yeah.
says I'm from a different planet or something. I'm starting to think she might be right.
Yeah. Are you a vampire or whatever? Whatever doesn't show up on pictures and stuff. Isn't that a vampire?
Well, that wouldn't have been very good for me being in the movie business now, would it?
True. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been in some movies I would have liked to have erased where I was at.
You would have welcomed that.
Yeah, that would have been okay by me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me your best experience.
Oof. Um. Well, I would say for me, closure for my daughter with the little man story. That was my best experience. Um, I actually, I it sounds crazy to say it, but I saw it one night. Whatever it was that she was seeing, I saw it. Her and I were in our living room at the house where all this was happening in Southern California, and she had fallen asleep I was holding her in the recliner, rocking her. She'd fallen asleep, and I had a entertainment center with the TV on. That was the only light, was from the TV. And in the corner of the room was a corner computer desk, and it was next to the entertainment center. But it was dark in the house except for the TV light. And so I'm rocking her. She's asleep, and she whispers, "Daddy." And I look down at her, and she's looking up at the ceiling, like above that computer desk. She's not looking at me. And I'm looking at her, looking at the ceiling. And I said, yes, baby. And she said, I see little man. And when she said that, Rick, I froze. And I'm a grown man. I mean, not a grown. I mean, I'm a young man. I'm in my 20s, but I froze. I froze in that recliner.
You've got more than 20 kids. You can't be in your 20s.
Yeah, I was scared to death. I did not want to look up into the corner of that and whatever and see what she was saying. I didn't know what to do. But I did. I'm looking at her and I closed my eyes and I turned and I looked, and I'm pretty sure we both had different ideas of what was up there. I hate to think of whatever she was seeing and how horrific it was for her and her little child head uh, to put that image together. But to me, the only way I can explain it, and I know I've shared this with people in the paranormal that have had experiences, and people understand, is if you've ever seen something in the dark, darker than the dark. So you're in a dark room, but then you see something darker than the darkness moving around in there. And that's what was happening. Like in the corner of the above that computer desk, in the ceiling, there was something moving. Darkness. It was a shadow. It was dark, but it wasn't a figure. I didn't see a face and eyes and all this. I just saw movement, and it made me sick. I grabbed her up and ran upstairs to the bedroom. I remember I slammed the door and ran upstairs and jumped in bed, and we just laid there. And then the whole night I was just listening for anything. Like I was paranoid that night. But fast forward to when the night we got rid of him, it was time for bed, and I told her, you know, give me goodnight kisses and go to bed. She got to the hallway in the entryway where the entry and the hallway met, and she wouldn't go. She wouldn't go down the hall. I said, baby, go to bed. She goes, I can't, little man's down there. And she was frozen. And I said, I was done. I couldn't see little man that day, that night. I didn't, but I was just done with little man. I was sick of it. So I just stormed down the hallway like an angry father, and I started swinging at the air. Like I swung down and like I was grabbing him, like I could see him, and I was about to fight little man. So I reached down and I grabbed him, and I said, "That's it. You're done. You're not allowed to be in my house," and blah blah. And the second I started doing that, I looked back, and my daughter is engaged. She's watching Daddy fight this thing. And so now I have another choice while I'm fighting little man. To my right is her bedroom. Well, I'm not going to go in there with little man. To my left is the bathroom. So I jump into the bathroom, and I'm sitting there on the tub, on the lip of the tub, facing the toilet. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I'm fighting little man. I'm staring at the toilet, and I'm like, well, what do little kids love to do?
Can you feel that there's something there?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I can't see him. I can't feel him. I'm doing all this for my daughter now, because she's engaged and she thinks Daddy's fighting this thing. So now I'm in the bathroom, and I'm like, I got to get rid of him. So I'm staring at the toilet. And I'm like, what do little kids like to do? What do kids love to do for whatever reason?
Stuff.
Flush the damn toilet. So I yelled at her. I said, Jelena, come help me, help me, help me. And she comes running in the bathroom. And she stands on the other side of the toilet, and I'm sitting there I'm just swinging, fighting this thing, like I'm balling it up. I'm like he's fighting me, like we're fighting. And then I push him into the toilet, like into the water, and I'm like pushing him. He's fighting back, and she's standing there watching, and it's happening in her little head. It's happening, and so I'm pushing him, like yelling at her. I said, Jelena, flush it, and she starts flushing the toilet, and she cannot stop. She's just hypnotized by what's happening, and she's flushing. I'm like, flush it, because normally you yell at the kids for flushing the toilet, but now I felt like I empowered her. She's fighting little man now, or this is happening. So and I kept doing that. There's a thing where the Disney characters, if you go to Disneyland, the Disney characters that dress up as the princesses and things, there's a rule. If when a child comes up and hugs you, you kneel down, you hug the child until the child breaks the hug.
Hmm.
You're not allowed to do that. You have to embrace that child until they let go. And I felt like I have to keep doing this until she stops flushing. She has to be the one to be, in her head, it has to be done, right? So I'm just fighting little man, shoving away. She's flushing, and she stops. She stops, and she's shaking. She's just shaking. And I just kind of sat back down on the tub, and I'm like looking at her, and she's just looking in the toilet. She's just shaking and looking in the toilet. And then she looks at me, and I said, baby, and she goes, he's gone, Daddy. Little man's gone. And I just cried. I cried. And I grabbed her, and I sat there on the toilet, or on the side of the tub, and I was just holding her, and I just cried. And I believed that in her mind he was gone. And that's how we got rid of him. But paranormal experiences, that would be the one. I've had a lot of great other things happen as I've moved throughout the paranormal world and grown my equipment collection. And Balgoni, I mean, come on. You know, I've been to Indiana State Sanatorium alone, up in the mental hospital, and where I laid equipment out, and I had something coming down the hallway, and the same thing in the governor's mansion, where down in the basement I put a little cookie crumb trail of equipment that led to me in the back corner of the basement. And I don't know why I'm thinking it's a good idea during a thunderstorm to sit down there at midnight by myself. And sure enough, my stuff starts going off down the stairs into the basement, and then I can hear it going off all the way till it gets to me, and I'm down there alone. And I mean, these are great experiences, but I would say the most intense and gratifying and validating experience for me was the night we got rid of little man, and I felt like I helped my daughter, close that chapter.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you know that you didn't have the energy in your hand when you flushed him?
I don't. You're right. Maybe I did. Maybe at that point, just your parental instincts took over. Maybe at that moment, the day I pulled her out of the pool, I wasn't like, the whole world fell apart. There was nothing made sense, and it didn't until I got her back, and it kind of, you're just in a mindset. Like, I was back in protective parent mode, and I was angry, and I was tired of this. I didn't want her to go to bed scared anymore. I didn't want to be scared anymore. Rick, this is how intense this is. That we had friends that would sometimes watch the kids for us. I remember one time we went to pick our daughter up, or the kids up, and the best friend came out to the car with us while we were loading them up, and she said, hey, I just wanted you to know, I took the kids to the park today, and I lost Jelena for a second, and I kind of panicked. And we said, what do you mean? She goes, well, the other kids were all playing on the swings and on the thing in the park, but Jelena was not there. And I, thank God, looked over, scanned the park, and she's over at a tree talking to the tree. So I ran over and got her, and I said, baby, who are you talking to? And she's playing with the little girl over at the tree. And then she says, or she asks, as we're loading them up, I'll never forget, I'm buckling them into the car seat, and she's behind me, and she says, who's little man? And when she asked that, I was frozen. I'm like, well, I have to talk about it in public to someone else. Like, what is going on? So I turned around and I asked her what happened. What do you mean, what happened with little man? She goes, well, we were all in the living room watching a movie, and Jelena's gone. And I find her in the family room that has the fireplace, sitting there in front of the fireplace, staring up at the mantle, above the mantle. And I said, baby, what are you doing? Come watch the movie. And she goes, little man's here. And she goes, so I don't know who little man is or why he's pulling Jelena out of the room. Like, it was just all the time, everywhere, Rick. Like it was, and I just that night we got rid of him in the bathroom. I was just done, and maybe you're right. Maybe he was there in her mind, and maybe I did walk into that energy, and together we did it, you know. But
Well, just
I,
the fact that you were fighting might have ran him off. You know,
yeah,
it seems like you had pretty much free reign the whole time until that happened.
I wish it was I wish it was a thing where I can say I did this, this, and this, and it worked. You know, I just went with my gut in the moment,
Well,
and
it did work.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, let
I
me
would
ask you
say,
this: did
yeah.
you have any animals at that time?
We did have a dog, a lab out, but they were outside dogs. They weren't inside dogs.
Because I have found I had my Great Dane actually run right by me and jump up in the air and start snapping and throwing his paws, like he was swatting away at somebody,
Yeah.
And then when I was watching Elliot, that's a
Hmm.
dog that my neighbor downstairs had, and he's sitting there, and he's a really cool little guy. Well, he's not little; he's like 25 pounds. And he gets up and he walks to my back bedroom right to the door, and he's sitting there, and his tail goes straight up, and I hear, when they get that real deep growl,
Yep.
you mean
Yep.
business. And then finally he turns around, he came back, and I was like, I keep telling people that there's things here. And every time there's an animal here, they will tell you. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Well, I'm glad you ran them off. I will tell you a story. This lady, African American lady, probably around 60, called me up and said, "Can you come help me? My place is haunted." And I got one of my people to go with me. And we got over there and we went all the way through. She had a loft, an apartment or a condo. And we went in there and we went all the way up, all the way through it. And I came back down. Now, this lady was somebody that should have been on a sitcom. She was just bubbly and just just as cool as it could be. But she was really worried, right? And I asked her, I said, "We went all the way through this place. This place isn't haunted." And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, I know." And I'm like, "What? Why am I here?" Right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "No, I think something's attached to me." Now, I didn't know how to really quantify that something was attached to her, right?
Right.
So I thought, I'm going to do the best I can to make her feel better, right? So I took my
Yeah.
K2 meter and went up and down it, and I said, not getting any reaction off of that. And I took, can't remember, I took another piece of equipment, it didn't go off. And then I said, try this. And I took my thermal imager, the FLIR, and right in the middle of her stomach is a big violet spot. And I went, whoa, right? Because it was
Yeah.
so much colder than she was, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Donna, do me a favor. Go upstairs, walk to the top, and then walk back down." So she does it. And I'm watching on the thing, and the whole time that thing's still there. It wasn't a glitch on the camera, right?
Mm.
So she came back down, and I said, "Yeah, it looks like you might have something attached to you. I'm not really sure how to quantify it, but there's something going on." And she says to me, she goes, "Well, what can I do?" I said, "Well, you got to get rid of it." And she goes, "I have to get rid of it?" I said, "Yeah, it's to you. You have to be, your own captain here." She goes, "What do I do?" I said, "Tell it to get out." Right. And she goes,
Yeah.
how strong should I be? I said, "Just put it this way. Imagine you find your sister having sex with your boyfriend." Right? She goes, "That much?"
Oh.
I said, "And then more." Right. So she
Yeah.
looks at me and she goes, "Do you mind if I use my faith?" I said, "Couldn't hurt." Right. And the
Yeah.
stupidest thing I've done ghost hunting was not videotaping this girl, because you talk about going after to beat up the grizzly bear. This is exactly what
Hmm.
happened. She threw her little fists up over her head. "God commands you to get out, get out." I mean, I almost left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally, after maybe 2 minutes of screaming and yelling and everything else, she's winded. I said, "All right, let me try it." I took another picture of her and it was gone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like a little shadow of what it had been. So I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But
That's one
boy,
thing that I and going into these private residences. A lot of times, people will ask, "Well, what should I do? You know, religious artifacts should I get?" And things like that. I said, "It just your faith is your faith. I can't tell you one or the other. You know, really, it's what you just have to believe." I
Yeah.
think that, you know, like that day, I see it in medicine.
I bet you see a
I,
lot of stuff where you work.
yeah, yeah. Um, I feel like, you know, maybe part of the contributing factor of my daughter making it was not just that I did, you know, CPR or breathe for her and things like that when I found her in the pool, but when I drove her to the hospital myself. I was doing CPR in the truck while I was driving and breathing for her, and then I would drive with my knees and do compressions. And I got her to the hospital, and I went running through the ambulance bay doors, and I kind of collapsed in the hallway. And it was strong enough to hold her above my head, screaming for help. And the staff ran over one of the,
Wasn't this at the hospital that you worked at?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One of the staff members took her from me, but when she did, the doctor said, "Oh, this baby's DOA."
Hold on a
And
minute, Jackson.
now I've been in every scenario just about you can think of, I think, Rick, where we've said, "Oh, this baby's DOA," and we watch the family just fall apart. I mean, you watch an entire family just collapse and fall apart. I grabbed the doctor by her lab coat and pulled her down to my face, and I told her, "No, no, we're not going to stop here." And she pulled away from me and she said, "Oh God, it's Mikey." And they took off down the hallway. And then I crawled on my hands and knees down the hallway, and I fought everybody. I didn't fight, but I was screaming and yelling at everyone in that room. "No, we're not stopping. She's not DOA." I fought. And the doctor did the same thing that woman that called you for help. They finally kicked me out of trauma and closed the door and locked me out of there, and I could hear her in there praying. She was commanding God intervene and you know, be um, you know, um, sorry, just she was doing the same thing. She was praying very hard. There was a lot happening, and you know, a half hour later, or whatever it was, from the time it started till the time it ended, we got a pulse. So I think I'm not going to. You can't say that anybody and everybody that's done that has had the same outcome, but I don't. You just don't quit. You believe, whether it's the religion that you practice, um, in each other, your family, you know, your loved ones. Um, I feel like I had Jelena believing that we were fighting, little man and I. I think that's the key thing, is you just have to believe, no matter whatever it is. You just have to genuinely believe.
Well, I kind of think that you probably were fighting with little man and did finish him off. I don't know if you flushed him down there, but I'm pretty sure if there really was something like that, you were fighting with it, and she was flushing, and it was a team effort and stuff. If he could get away, he was probably saying, "I'm out of here. These people are serious. I'm going somewhere else."
Yeah, yeah,
So, well,
yeah.
you know, just to back up what you're saying, um, I got really sick over in Scotland, and when I got back, I, I used to walk 2 miles to get a sandwich every day. And I was getting, when I first started to walk, I was like having a hard time breathing. But after about 100 yards, it was okay. And then one day I came back, and I noticed while I was driving, I was not paying attention, right? And I thought, this isn't good. I might hurt somebody. I got to do something. So I came upstairs and opened my door, and I closed it behind me. And all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe at all.
Mm.
And I mean, had my hands on my knees. I was leaning over, and I was going, and not an ounce of air. Now, I probably went for like 2 minutes struggling as much as I could. And
Mm.
finally, I just said in my head, because I couldn't talk, I just said, "God, please help me." And instantly, I was standing up straight and breathing. And I was like nothing had ever happened. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
but when I went to the doctor, they gave me a blood test, and 2 days later they called me up and said, "Get to the hospital." I said, "Why?" They said, "Your red blood cells are almost at a lethal level."
Yeah.
And I got down there and they shot me down the hallway like a missile into the thing. He just started giving me transfusions and everything else for 4 days. So
Yeah.
sometimes you get help. All you got to do is just mention it.
Yeah. Well, and you got to believe, I mean, you got to get to that point. Like, I can tell everyone that's watching right now that you are absolutely the worst patient to try to take care of, especially in Scotland. When you're like, hey, Mikey, watch me try to get up these stairs in Roslyn. And I'm watching the blood drain out of your face every time you're coming up another step. I'm like, he's going to go down. He's going to go down. But you wouldn't listen. And so we tucked you in bed. And then the girls and I in the hallway had a little powwow. We said, listen, we're going to do Rick checks. And if he doesn't answer, we're kicking the door and we're calling the Scotland's version of 911. And we're just going to wait till he passes out and can't fight us anymore. And then they'll just come and take him in the ambulance. So I'm
Well,
glad that when you got.
I got beat up by my suitcase. It wouldn't have been hard.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad that when you got to that point, you realized it and you asked for help and you were genuine. You were genuinely, when something's wrong, your body. And
Well, I think too that man upstairs hears everything, right? And I think the fact that I said I got to check this, I don't want to hurt anybody when I'm driving.
Right.
That probably steered some more stuff my way, like.
Yeah. Some help.
Yeah.
Well, and as well as I do, and another thing about this field is having we've had the pleasure of working with some really talented mediums and psychics along the way. And sometimes their feedback kind of helps, maybe at least makes you feel like you're validated a little bit too. Like you have sometimes. I'm not saying that people are seeing things with you or someone that's not there or whatever it is, but what I gathered from them is you have a different kind of an energy.
It's true.
You meet someone at the supermarket and in line and they just feel different, like their frequency's higher, their vibration's higher. It's just how they're built. And some doing this all these years and having met a lot of these people, I've had multiple encounters where I've been told I have a lot of energy around me, and it may have something to do with being in the medical field, or I don't know, but maybe I'm just blessed.
Well, it could have been a lot of those babies that you helped cross over too.
Well, everybody that's done this or does this at some point in time has not been able to help anyone try to live anymore. So now you have to try to help them pass. And everyone in the medical field's had that experience. And I was fortunate enough to where, I worked night shift. There was usually enough staff when someone was at that point, young or old, I was able to take that role and go be with them, whether it was a baby wrapped in a blanket or a 90-year-old veteran, war vet that was stuck in the war. Like it just whatever the case may be. We did not let people die alone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are certain people, and I've tried to explain this to people. This is just my way of looking at things. That everybody has a different frequency, and everybody has a different color. That other things like spirits will notice, and they'll be able to identify if that's somebody they want to talk to. If you've got real nice mellow looking color or nice color, you got a red color, nobody's going to play with you. Yeah, but
you like your aura, you mean, or
yeah. I really think that spirits, especially, and who else can really see that? Dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs. I've had so many dogs just run up to me and just jump. And they're saying he doesn't do that with anybody. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. As one person explained it to me one time, actually gave me a color. Well, they said a color, but I said, "What do you see? Like, what do you in your mind? Like, what do you see?" And they said, Do you remember wrapping? Hey, Melinda, do you remember your Easter baskets coming wrapped in that shimmery cellophane looking stuff with the different colors? Like they would wrap your whole Easter basket in it, and then you have to open that. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, yeah, that kind of pearlescent or whatever, just multicolored, shimmery. And she goes, yeah, that's what it looks like. Looks like Easter basket, cellophane or whatever, plastic,
Yeah.
sparkly wrap. And I was like, oh, okay. I
No, I'm
mean,
positive that people can pick up, animals especially can pick up. You know what else can really pick up on it? Babies.
yeah, oh yeah,
And my friends used to tease me. We'd go to like Outback or something. If there was a baby within 50 yards, it would come over to me. And it was so funny. Mom and dad would be walking and the baby would be going, ah, ah. And they'd stop and say, does it happen? I said, it happens all the time.
uh,
But I will tell you something really funny. I was in Outback one night and Adam Sandler and his wife were eating and they had a baby about a year and a half. And the baby just started howling. And the mom took her outside, or him. I don't know what sex the baby was, little baby. And about 10 minutes later, she comes in and sits down and she starts eating. And the little rascal fires off again, right? And Adam picks the baby up and he goes outside, right? And a little bit later, he comes back in, sits down, and he finishes eating. She finishes eating. And he gets up and he walks. He was at the next table over on the opposite side, right? And as he got up, he's walking towards me, and I said, "Excuse me, can you mind if I ask you a question?" And he goes, "Sure." What? And I said, "You two ever eaten together?" And he looks at the baby. He goes, "Yep, about a year and a half ago."
oh, that's awesome.
That
I
was
thought you were going to say something like you took the baby outside. I'm like, Adam Sandler did not let you take his child outside.
no.
You do
No,
have that calming effect, though, Rick.
not so much. Although I am very protective.
You are very protective. Yeah.
I mean, this is going to sound like BS, but to my best count, trying to remember over my life, is I think I've saved 14 people from dying. And I'm not talking about when I was a lifeguard.
Right.
I mean, I saved one in Edinburgh that one time. The kid that walked out into traffic, and I ran out there and ran him back in. And a bunch of times I've saved people. One guy drank an entire thing of vodka when I was in college.
Oof.
And everybody was screaming. He's we can't wake him up. We can't wake him up. And I went over and I gave him the old external stuff. And I mean, because people were didn't know how to do it. They were trying to do the stuff. And I'd been a lifeguard, so I knew how to do that. But I knew he was farther than CPR was going to work, right? And I just wound up and just went boom right on his chest. And he popped up and he went, ah, ah. And everybody went, wow, that was pretty cool. Never thought beating him up might be the right answer. But I mean, I saved my brother's life from drowning. I saved my dad from being shot. It's just, I don't know. Just maybe that's my calling in life. I'm supposed to protect other people.
Well, and maybe like you know how you said in the beginning of the show when you and Lori and Kat and I and certain people, I mean, that's just to name a few. You and I have had extreme success on investigations with people, whether it's just people that show up for the event or whatever. Maybe it's just you and I, but you could say you're like the protector. Maybe I'm like the healer or whatever, however they would label it, because I'm in the medical field. Because you were, a stunt guy, like this is your thing. But that's where our frequencies are, and when we all come together, and you sprinkle in Kat and Lori and whatever other personalities that come in and kind of complete the circuit. Maybe that's why these things happen with our. We've really, I can't. I think it would be harder, Rick, for us to name a place that we've been together and investigated where we haven't had something happen.
That's pretty true. I don't really remember anything happening at Winchester Mystery House though, but that was because it was so noisy in there that you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, but Lori and I had one of the coolest experiences. Remember when her battery died in her SLS camera?
Yeah.
And we had to go back downstairs to where they had our equipment room and everything set up.
And
We
you were
swapped,
helping some lady on the way back.
well, yeah, we swapped batteries. And remember, before that, during Patty's seance, Lori was getting crap all over that room
Yeah, she was.
with her SLS. But when we were going back up to meet up with you guys, there was remember that crazy window in the floor that had the railing around it to protect people from walking over it was a literal window in the floor that you'd fall straight through. She had fired her SLS back up to get ready to meet up with the group and start recording, and something popped up on that window. So Lori and I stood there and watched this thing, and then another one popped up on the actual window ledge. And just like at LAPD Museum, where it looked like the two were fighting in that enclosure, and then they were trying to crawl out of it, it literally looked like whatever was on the window ledge was trying to help the other one up off of that glass thing on the floor. We were watching this live, like on
That's
our way
pretty
back.
cool.
It was insane. I mean, Lori, I don't think we were recording it though, because she had just turned it back on just to power it up to meet back with the group. I think I might have got something on the phone, but it was just one of those things. But that was at Winchester. So, but yeah, like I said, I can't think of a place that you and I have been where we haven't had something happen, because
No,
I think it's that chemistry, you know.
well, that's why I asked you to be the first person I've had on because we've had so many stories together. Name a place that something didn't happen.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. Oh, there's Lori. You recorded it with your phone. Yeah, yeah. It's out there. But Lori, you know what I'm talking about, girl. You remember that? That was crazy. How long did we stand there and watch that?
hey,
But
girl,
yeah,
hey.
hey girl, hey. But you get our personalities together, and I think we go into these locations with an open mind. You know, I set up equipment because I'm recording the environment and I'm looking for data, and but I I don't just shut things down or try to debunk stuff. Um, and then you bring you I you're never provocative. You don't provoke, but you're very deliberate, and you speak like you say what you mean. And I don't feel like that's attacking or aggressive. I just feel like you're being like, hey, you're calling people out. You like, did you get upset like at the Allensworth with that thing that happened with Allie there that night? You were you went into protective Papa Bear mode, and Jamie was in Mama Bear mode. It was the whole thing, but like that energy, that combination of things. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say it manifests, but maybe it helps recognize what's happening um, with everybody there
Well, I
together.
have to tell you that what happened at Allensworth was so bizarre. I mean, Mikey and
Yeah.
I were there with some other people, and we were doing what's called an energy circle. And I was all of a sudden I saw something, and I'm not psychic. I have things that pop into my head, but I think everybody has that. And
Yeah.
I saw like from above, like a security camera of the hallway where we all had our rooms, and there was a bald guy standing down by the window. There's nobody else there, right? And he
Right.
starts walking down, and then I start saying, I'm seeing somebody walking down the hallway. I couldn't see down the hallway because it was up there, and the door was this way. You couldn't see down the hallway. And I'm sitting there, and they said, "What's he look like?" Now, Colonel Allensworth place was built all by black people, and it was all the places to live there were from black people. And if I was going to make up something, I wouldn't have said he's a tall white guy that's bald, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew that it had been always been African Americans that lived there and built the place, right? So
Right.
who would say that um, a couple seconds later there started to be this black mist starting to form, and that guy went gone, right? and you
Yeah.
could just feel that it meant harm to somebody. I mean, it
Right.
was nasty. And the girl at Michelle, remember the psychic?
Yeah.
I said, something's down there. She goes, yeah, I can feel it too. And then you asked me, you said, what's it doing? I said, it's after somebody. And I didn't want to say who it was. Right? And
Yeah.
everybody kept saying, who is it? Who is it? I said, it's Allie, who was the youngest girl, which made sense. They usually tend to go for the easier prey, so they would go after somebody younger. And I just said, you ain't getting her. We ain't letting you in here. And then Jamie just went all Mama Grizzly.
Yeah.
I, I almost ran out of the place. She was sincere, but then it
Yeah.
dissipated. But I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Still haven't.
Yeah. Well, and I did run out of there. I didn't know what was happening. I had never experienced anything like that in the paranormal. And talk about,
Well,
it's
yours was
palpable.
worse. Yours was worse than the other people because you had your back to that doorway.
Well, yeah, maybe that too.
No, I mean,
I'm
you
trying to
know,
be
we're telling you something's nasty and coming, and you've got your back to it. So naturally,
like,
you're kind of going,
oh,
"Mm."
back here, yeah. But it was the whole. I could feel Jamie's energy. Like she was intense. She was
Oh, she was
ups.
vicious.
She was vicious, and I that could be the thing too. Like some people, I think a lot of us in the medical field. I, I'm not, I'm not condensing it down to one group, but I think a lot of people that work in the medical field are empathetic, have that sense where you can feel when someone's hurting, and you just know like when we were in Scotland, Rick, and you were lying to me about your symptoms and how bad you were because you are as the protector are not going to let the rest of us feel like you're weak and sick and vulnerable and ruin the trip and worry about you because you're the protector. Whereas I, being in the medical field, I know you're full of crap because I can see it, what's happening, and I can,
Why do I like you? Just
yeah.
why?
But do you see what I'm saying? Like we can feel that, and that night I just felt whatever was happening I could feel Jamie's anxiety for Allie. I could feel your anger at whatever was happening. Michelle was just kind of observing and seeing what's going on, but I feel like all of you had been in not a similar situation, but you knew how to dealt with that kind of a thing. Whereas I'm a data guy. Like I'm waiting for lights to flash and stuff to play back on the recorder. I was not ready for that, and I was overwhelmed by all of it. I went outside. Remember, you came out there and you're like, actually, no, you took me outside. You made me go outside. You remember that? You got me up.
Yes.
You got me up and you walked me out of that room and through the kitchen, outside, out back, and it was
Yeah, we
cold.
just had a little chat, and got
Yeah,
you straightened out, and look at where you are now.
I know. Yeah, but this is why this paranormal community is so important, because you need people to see that and to ground you. You know, think about if you hadn't been there, Rick, or if you hadn't have done that, I would have been outside in my head, just trying to figure out what was going on. I'd have been upset that Jamie was upset and you were upset, and that I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what was happening, and so you coming out and talking to me. I remember the first thing you said is, "What are you feeling right now? What are you feeling right now?" And you made me talk about it. You made me say it out loud, and instead of internalizing it. And I think that that's a key for anything. Anybody that's going through anything, you have to, you know, speak your truth, and you have to be real with it, and you need that person that's going to encourage you to do those things. And I've been blessed in this paranormal field, in this community, to have people do that. They, hold you accountable for your feelings, and that's what we need to keep us from going crazy when we're fighting things we can't see.
I got to tell you, you have come a long way since that night.
Yeah.
I mean, a real long way. And I tell people this all the time when I'm on other shows, that you are one of the finest investigators that we have. Did we ever get a picture of one of the drone shots, for goodness sake?
I sent some stuff to
No, I
Carl.
mean, Carl, can we show one before we run out of time? Yeah, Mikey is a world-class drone expert. I mean, he really is. Well,
Thank
you
you,
are.
thank
I
you.
mean,
I
say it
love
like
that little guy.
who?
I lost one, my drone. Did I tell you I lost Raven in Alabama? She went down.
Well, let me ask you a question. Something jumped into my head.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, you know the things that you can put on your car in case someone steals it, or you can put it in your
Oh
wallet.
yeah.
Why don't you put one on your drone?
It's built in. As a matter of fact, when we were in Scotland the first time at the Suicide Bridge Castle.
Here comes one.
Oh, there's Balgoni.
Yeah, it's Balgoni for sure.
There's
It's a great picture.
Balgoni. Yeah. Oh, this is the cemetery in Couros, where we had to hike about a half mile outside of town. And I was flying back in, and there's the old chapel. They used to have the old chapels in the cemeteries, and then I got some of the headstones. I actually flew the drone low through that cemetery. Got some pretty cool stuff there from
That
that
kind of
one.
looks like
Now,
template too.
yeah. Now you know who this is. You know where this is.
Is that where you landed? There, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
I got to brag about Mikey. Do you see the little rectangular thing out there in the mud? That is where they buried a witch underneath that, and it's all water comes in, and it's. I mean, talk about being lonely under there. But we're all sitting there, and Mikey fired up his drone and put a flower on it, and went over and flew out there and put it on that thing right there. I almost started crying. It was so cool.
Yeah, they actually and here's me flying back to the group after we did that. So the group and there's you, Rick, pointing right at the drone coming back. So remember they had asked it was Gregor, I believe, had said, no one's ever put flowers on her grave. Do you think you could put flowers on the drone and land them on her stone? And they were literally picking out those little little daisy looking flowers there along the wall where everyone's standing, and we tucked them into the landing gear and flew right over that. Yep, right there, Carl, you got it right there. That's the marker. And we were able to drop the flower. Actually, you got video of it on your phone, I believe, Rick, and then everybody cheering afterwards.
Yeah, that was really something.
Yeah,
That was really
yeah,
something.
it was great. And then
I
that's
don't
me
know how
flying
many
back.
drone guys could have done that, by the way.
Maybe, yeah, I might be the only one. There's Aerith Castle. I love this castle. I love this castle. I don't know what it is about this castle, but this is the first castle that we saw when we got to Scotland, and that and that's where actually a half mile down the road from here is where we got to pick the cover for your book.
Yeah,
your second book
my second
at the
book,
cemetery there. Yeah, but yeah, Aerith Castle.
You know what? I got to tell a story because we've only got a couple minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
You are so good at this, Mikey. And it was so cool too because we had Jay Bloomkey and he's expert too, so that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But Aerith Castle, we went in there, and the guy that was running the castle terrified of ghosts, right? Well,
yeah.
We're in this one room, and Mikey's, by the way, is really good at audio too, and he's talking and talking, and he just got something came through, right? And he says, "Let's see what it is." And right then, that guy opens the door right next to me, and I'm only maybe 7 feet away from Mikey, and he's just playing it, and just as the guy walks through, it goes, "Get out!" And the guy goes, "Oh, okay," and he turned around and he left. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
I mean, we were laughing so hard. It wasn't funny, but it was. I mean, it was just perfect timing. Like literally playing the recording back. He's terrified, like you said. He doesn't like to lock this castle up at night and all the things. Opens the door to tell us it's time to move on to the next place, and as he's about to say it's time to go, I hit play. It says, "Get out." And he says, "Wait." And he turns around and closes the door and he walks out.
Yeah, he booked. He was out of there.
He was gone. But yeah, no, good times with Rick McCollum. I'll tell you, and I wouldn't be here without you, my friend.
Well, that's why I always invite you, because I got somebody to play with. So,
I appreciate it.
Carl, are we running out of time?
Thank you, Lori.
Yep.
Hey, it's Carl.
There's Carl.
Oh, he said time to say goodnight. Well, thank you for asking me on here, Rick, and letting me. Am I your first guest?
Yes, you are. And you my second guest, Carl.
Hey,
Carl's my guest for next Sunday. So join us on that one too. Because
yeah.
you may not know this, but he's a big paranormal investigator also.
Oh, you know what? Real quick, Carl. Hey, I wanted to show you these, buddy. Let's see if Carl remembers. He gave me these. He made some dowsing rods. He gave me some rods. Do you remember these, Carl? And I got them. This is a story for next week. But yeah, I have them in my ghost hunting gear bag. I'm not good with them necessarily, but I have them, and yeah.
I don't want to say anything about Mikey, but it takes 4 people to carry his gear bag. I walk around, I got a K2. He's got like Sherpas with him.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, let's call it a night. Mikey, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Carl, thank you for doing the show and for all the people that watched. Hope you had a good time. And yes, Sky King, it was nice to see and hear you two again. It was nice to hear from you and from Tracy and Lauren and Melinda and everybody that signed in.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I owe you a pizza, Sky. Stand by. Well, thank you all, and good night. Appreciate it.
Carl, thank you so much for setting us up with the pictures and everything else. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.